Frazzled from doing all the work. I just busting some ass. Oh, Bernie Sanders up to bat. Whew, great timing. Okay, hopefully we'll get some good connection here.
Vice President Biden.
Wow, they started right off the bat, didn't they?
To get the nuclear agreement.
Hey, Jiddles.
Bringing together the red.
Oh man, I'm having connection issues.
Some of the folks who aren't friendly to
Let's
us.
see what I can do about
And
that.
it was working. It was working. It was.
What else can I
held
close?
tightly. There was no movement on the part of the Iranian government to get close to a nuclear weapon. And it was predictable from the day he pulled out of the agreement, Trump, what exactly would happen. We're now isolated. We're in a situation where our allies in Europe are making a comparison between the United States and Iran, saying both ought to stand down, making a moral equivalence. We have lost our standing in the region. We have lost the support of our allies.
See if that helps.
Has to be able to pull those folks.
Let's bring up the debate.
Reestablish our alliances and insist that Iran go back into the agreement, which I believe with the pressure applied as we put on before, we can get done.
So just to be clear, Vice President Biden, would you leave troops in the Middle East or would you pull them out?
I would leave troops in the Middle East in terms of patrolling the Gulf, where we are now, small numbers of troops. And I think it's a mistake to pull out the small number of troops that are there now to deal with ISIS. What's happened is now that he's gone ahead, the president, and started this whole process moving, what's happening? ISIS is
God, he sounds like such an idiot. He's such an idiot. Listen to him speak.
And quite frankly, I think he's flat out lied about saying the reason he went after, the reason he made the strike was because our embassies are about to be bombed.
His brain is fried, that guy.
I would leave some troops there, but not in the level that Donald Trump is taking us right now. Afghanistan, I have long wanted to bring our troops home. I would do that. Some would remain for counterterrorism and training. In Syria, I would not have removed the 150 troops from the border with Turkey. I think that was a mistake. I think it made our allies and many others much more vulnerable to ISIS.
Let me say hello to all of you.
And then when it comes to Iraq right now,
Jiddles, Debbie, Michael, Billy, Jay, Lewis, Robin, Steven, Lewis, Jay Payne, hey, nay, hey.
That asked a question of both the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State. And I asked them about imminent threat, but I also asked them what their alternatives were. And they gave very vague answers. I asked them, where is the surge of diplomacy that we would be seeing if I was president? And I asked them where they were going to leave the Iraqi people. Time and time again, you see that this president puts his own interest, his
Bill Lowry,
in front of our countries. I would put our country's interests first.
Quarter of the hour, cannabis isn't for all. Cheers, everybody. That woman sounds like an idiot.
At least some combat troops in the Middle East or bring them out?
No, I think we need to get our combat troops out. You know, we have to stop this mindset that we can do everything with combat troops. Our military is the finest.
I'm not ready yet. I gotta wait for it to heat up more.
And they will take military on earth. And they will take any sacrifice we ask them to take. But we solve problems that cannot be solved militarily. Our keeping combat troops there is not helping. We need to work with our allies. We need to use our economic tools. We need to use our diplomatic tools. Now, look, I understand. There are people on this stage, when it comes to Afghanistan, for example.
I hate her.
Talk about
I hate her so much.
Lindsey
I can
Graham
see right
talks
through her
about
fucking,
things there
her
for
home fucking, or her Midwestern gal fucking bullshit. I can see right through that bullshit. This fucking cunt. Baflow.
and an end point. We need to get our combat troops out. They are not helping create more safety for the United States or the region.
Vice President Biden, is Senator Warren right?
Well, I tell you what, this is in a position. I was part of the coalition that put together 68 countries to deal with stateless terror as well as failed states. Not us alone, 68 other countries. That's how we were able, 68 other countries. That's how we were able to defeat and end the caliphate for ISIS.
That guy looks like he's melting. He looks like a wax figure that's fucking melting. He looks like his eyebrows have been burnt off and he's melting. He's literally just decaying right in front of us.
To organize the effort to take them down.
He's so creepy.
Mayor Buttigieg,
Creepy
you're serving
fucking Joe.
Afghanistan. Who's right?
And this fucker,
Continue to
fucking
remain engaged
Alfred E.
without
Newman
having
lookalike,
the
motherfucker.
of ground troops.
Oh, look at me, I'm a fucking idiot. Look at me, I should be president. I'm I make a good leader. Look at me, I make a good leader. Look at me, I make a good leader. Fucking Pugsley looking motherfucker. Fuck you, Pugsley. Don't you guys love this commentary? Now this is commentary. This is the commentary you've all come for. Cheers. Shut up, you fucking dick!
And look at his boy one more time. And look at his boy one more time. That is happening by the thousands.
I hate this guy.
As we see so many more
I hate
troops
this guy
sent
so
into
much.
harm's way. And my perspective is to ensure that that will never happen when there is an alternative as Commander-in-Chief.
Fuck
Senator
you.
Sanders.
Wolf, in America today, our infrastructure is crumbling. Half of our people are living paycheck to have no health care or are uninsured, underinsured. We got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets tonight. The American people are sick and tired of endless wars which have cost us trillions of dollars. Our job is to rebuild the United Nations, rebuild the State Department, make sure that we have the capability of bringing the world together.
Where's my fucking
to resolve
phone? I gotta turn it
international
off.
conflict diplomatically and stop the endless wars that we have experienced.
We're going to get to everyone, but Vice President Biden, you criticized President Trump's decision to kill the Iranian General Soleimani without first going to Congress. Are there any circumstances, other than a direct attack on the United States, where you would take military action without congressional approval?
Other than a
I
direct
ran
attack.
the first time as a 29-year-old kid against the war in Vietnam on the grounds that only way they could take a nation to war is with the informed consent of the American people. The informed consent of the American people. And with regard to this idea that we can walk away and not have any troops anywhere, including special forces, there's no way you negotiate or been able to negotiate with terrorists. You have to be able to form coalitions to be able to defeat them or contain them. If you don't, we end up being the world's policeman again. They're going to come to us. They've come to us before, they'll come to us again. So it's a fundamental difference than negotiating with other countries. It's fundamentally the requirement that we use our...
Does he look like Max Headroom from the old Coca-Cola commercials? Coke, Max Headroom. Bye, Coke. Max Headroom.
So with the Biden doctrine,
Fucking creepy looking wax figure, melting wax figure, creepy looking, fucking... God, you just disgust me. You fucking disgust me. Fuck you. God, I hate him. And I hate this motherfucker too. You guys need to fucking...
When we lost troops in Niger, there were
Both
members
of you
Congress
go off
who
somewhere and fucking
they didn't
kill
even
each
know we
other.
had troops.
Fuck off.
And it was all pursuant to an
No, it was
authorization
well, G. Willikers, god damn, shocks. Well, G. Willikers, what?
The reality is, year after year,
Shut up.
Congress didn't want to touch this either because it was so politically difficult.
Shut up.
Fundamental truth is, if our troops can summon the courage to go overseas into harm's way, often on deployment after deployment, then we've got to make sure that Congress has the courage to take tough up or down votes on whether they ought to be there. And when
Oh, God, it's so tough on Congress to make these decisions for other people's lives. Oh, it's so tough. What a tough decision to send our men and women of uniform into fucking war. You're a prick. Suck my dick. And you probably would, you fucking douchebag. Fuck you.
Other than a direct attack on the United States, where you would take military action without congressional approval.
Well, imminent threat, but we need an authorization for the use of military force before we take this nation into combat.
Whatever,
That's
dude.
what
Suck
the
my dick. I'm not the
Constitution
goddamn
provides, and that's why
president,
it's
you
commander
fucking
in chief.
douchebag.
I
You're
will
blind.
do it. I
Suck
just
my
wanna be
cock.
clear. Everyone
Fuck
on
off.
the stage talks about nobody wants
Donald Trump
industry.
wishes he could
But the
fucking
question
live
is,
stream like
when
me.
and how do you plan to get out of it? You know, on Senate Armed Services Committee, we have one general after another in Afghanistan who comes in and says, you know, we've just turned the
You know,
corner,
oh,
and
gee
now it's all
willikers.
going to
Oh,
be different."
gee.
And then what
Oh,
happens?
golly.
All the same.
Up,
We're
you
not
know,
here.
up, you
Someone
know,
new comes in, and we've just turned the corner. We've turned the corner so many times, we're going in circles in these regions. This has got to stop. It's not enough to say someday we're going to get out. No one on the ground, none of our military can describe what the conditions are for getting out. It's time to get our combat troops home.
Mr. Steyer, would a President Steyer use military force as a deterrent? And if not, under what circumstances would you take military action?
I would take military action to protect the lives and safety of American citizens. But what we can see in the Middle East and what this conversation shows is that there is no real strategy that we're trying to accomplish in what we're doing in the Middle East. Obviously, Mr. Trump has no strategy. He is going from crisis to crisis, from escalation to escalation. But if you look further over the last 20 years, including in the war in Afghanistan, we know from the Washington Post that in fact, there was no strategy. There was just a series of tactical decisions that made no sense. So we really have to ask ourselves in the Middle East, what are we trying to accomplish? I agree with Vice President Biden. To do it, we should definitely be doing it in coalition with other countries. And I want to point out
Thank you,
that
Kathy.
as we do that, we're confronted by this issue, which everyone is talking about. But at the same time, there's a gigantic climate issue in Australia, which also requires the same kind of value-driven coalition building that we actually should be using in the Middle East.
The climate issue is only in Australia, folks. There's a climate issue in Australia,
where we can prosper more, and every
said the
single
billionaire.
country should follow into that strategy, and it's just not happening in Washington, D.C.
Mayor Buttigieg, another critical issue you'd face as president is the threat of nuclear weapons. Last week, President Trump said, quote, "As long as I'm president of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon."
No law regarding cannabis.
Would
Cheers, everybody.
President Buttigieg
Cannabis isn't
make
kids
that
pro.
same promise?
Ensuring that Iran does not develop nuclear weapons will, of course, be a priority because it's such an important part of keeping America safe. But unfortunately, President Trump has made it much harder for the next president to achieve that goal by gutting the Iran nuclear deal. One that, by the way, the Trump administration itself admitted was working, certified that it was preventing progress toward a nuclear Iran. By gutting that, they have made the region more dangerous and set off the chain of events that we're now dealing with as it escalates even closer to the brink of outright war. Now, yes,
Continue.
in order to get that done, we've got to work with our partners. The Iran nuclear deal, the technical term for it was the JCPOA. That first letter J stood for joint. We can't do this alone, even less so now.
We got to play as a team. Oh, wow. Who would have thought of that? This is a fucking filibustering piece of shit. He's talking loud and saying nothing.
Have the alliances we need to meet
Still talking about alliances.
but a widely shared goal around the world.
Shut
to
up!
ensure that Iran does not become a
Fuck this
nuclear
piece of
armed
shit.
country.
Shut
Mayor
up.
Buttigieg, to be clear, would you allow Iran to become a nuclear power? Yes or no?
He said no.
That, our
He said no, you fucking dumb
security
bitch.
defense
You're an
will
idiot.
ensure
Did you
that
listen to
Iran
what the
does not
moron
become
said?
a nuclear power.
You fucking dumb bitch. God, it's like listening to dumb bitches talk to morons. I love this debate
Vladimir
stuff.
Putin. We actually seem to be further away from being able to work with Russia on things like the renewal of START. We've got to move toward less, not more, nuclear danger, whether it is from states, from stateless potential terrorist actors,
Mayor
or
Buttigieg.
anywhere else around the world.
Thank you, Mayor Buttigieg. Senator Klobuchar, if you become president, it's very possible there won't be an Iran nuclear deal for the United States to rejoin. Given that, how would you prevent Iran from gaining a nuclear weapon?
I would start negotiations again, and I won't take that as a given that our European partners are still trying to hold the agreement together. My issue is that because of the actions of Donald Trump, we are in a situation where Iran is starting to enrich uranium again in violation of the original agreement. So what I would do is negotiate. I would bring people together, just as President Obama did years ago, and I think that we can get this done. But you have to have a president that sees this as a #1 goal. And in answer to the original question you asked the mayor, I would not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And then you have to get an agreement in place. I think there are changes you can make to the agreement, better sunset, some changes to the inspections, but overall, that is what we
To these
should do.
people saying that they would not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, who the fuck are you? The goddamn police of the world? You've got a nuclear weapon. Suck my dick. If Iran wants a nuclear weapon, too goddamn fucking bad. This is the game that America chose to play years ago. And now, what? We can have nuclear weapons, but they can't? No. Fuck that bullshit. That's how I feel about it. Fuck this dumb cunt.
This is a terrorist regime that we cannot allow to have a nuclear weapon.
Vice President Biden, I want to ask you about North Korea. President Trump has met with Kim Jong-un 3 times. President Obama once said he would meet with North Korea without any preconditions. Would you meet with North Korea without any preconditions?
No, not now. I wouldn't meet with him without any preconditions. Look, well, we gave him everything he's looking for. Legitimacy. The president showed up, met with him, gave him legitimacy, weakened the sanctions we have against him. I would be putting what I did as vice president. I met with Xi Jinping more than anyone else. I would be putting pressure on China to put pressure on Korea to cease and desist from their nuclear power.
They're also worried about all these other countries having nukes.
Move forward as we did before, and you reported.
Who the fuck are you, goddamn North Korea's daddy?
Whole notion of
Who the fuck do you think you are, man? You're not the police of the world.
When China said to me,
Sit the fuck
Xi Jinping
down.
said to me, that's a threat to us. I said, we're going to move and protect our interests unless you get involved and protect it. I would reignite the relationship between Japan and South Korea.
He's a mumbler.
And I would put enormous pressure on China. Because
Hey, it's bottom of the hour. It's time to smoke. Dabs, guys. Woo!
Put pressure
Dab
on
along.
North Korea to cease and desist. But I would not.
No law regarding cannabis. Cannabism is for all. Cheers, everybody.
Absent preconditions, I would not meet with the, quote, supreme leader who said, Joe Biden is a rabid dog. He should be beaten to death with a stick. I count that.
Other than that, you like him.
Other than that, I like him, and he got a love letter from Trump right after that.
Mr. Steyer, would you meet with North Korea without any preconditions?
No. It's very clear that if we're going to do something with North Korea, we're going to have to do it in concert with our allies. That meeting with him without preconditions is not going anywhere. That the staff can meet.
Because that
to
worked
try
so
and
well
see
for
how far we
Obama,
can
right?
get. But this is a classic situation where the United States idea of going it alone makes no sense.
Whatever.
And when you were talking about Iran, let's face it, Iran is under great pressure economically. So every single discussion we've had about Iran has had to do with military power and America versus Iran. Whereas in fact, what worked with President Obama was a alliance of our allies and us putting economic
Michael
pressure
Goldsmith,
on
please
them
don't
for them to
spam
give
the
up their
chat. If
military
you
tactics.
could please do
That
that in
to me
one
is
sentence
called
like
strategy.
David C. Baker
Having
Jr.
a
does,
goal
I
to
would
make
greatly
America
appreciate it.
safer by
You
looking
just
more
bumped everybody
broadly
else's
at
chat
just us
off that I could have read, bro.
the world
Mr. Steyer.
spending money.
Let's stay with the theme of America's role in the world and talk about trade. Tomorrow, President Trump is expected to sign Phase 1 of a trade agreement with China, and the Senate will likely soon approve a new trade deal with Mexico and Canada, Iowa's largest trading partners. Senator Sanders, you have said that new deal, the USMCA, quote, makes some modest improvements, yet you're going to vote against it. Aren't modest improvements better than no improvements
No,
for the
they can do
farmers and
much-
manufacturers who have been devastated here in Iowa?
Shut up.
The answer is
Let
we
the
can
man
do much
talk,
better than a
bitch.
Trump-led trade deal.
Thanks, Michael.
This deal, and I think the proponents of it acknowledge, will result in the continuation of the loss of hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs as a result of outsourcing. The heart and soul of our disastrous trade agreements, and I'm the guy who voted against NAFTA and against permanent normal trade relations with China, is that we have forced American workers to compete against people in Mexico, in China, elsewhere, who earn starvation wages, $1 or $2 an hour. Second of all, every major environmental organization has said no to this new trade agreement because it
He looks
does not
good.
even have the phrase climate change in it.
His hair's
And given
burnt.
the fact that climate change is right now the greatest threat facing this planet, I will not vote for a trade agreement that does not incorporate very, very strong principles to significantly lower fossil fuel emissions in the world.
But Senator Sanders, to be clear, the AFL-CIO supports this deal. Are you unwilling to compromise?
The AFL-CIO does. The AFL-CIO does. The Machinists Union does not. And every environmental organization in this country, including the Sunrise Organization, who are supporting my candidates, happen to believe, and I hope we will talk about climate change in a moment. If we do not get our act together in terms of climate change, the planet that we're going to be leaving our kids and our children and our grandchildren will be increasingly unlivable.
We're going to
and
get to
uninhabitable.
climate change.
Shut up, bitch! Man
Senator
speaking!
The same in this issue.
Senator Warren, you support the USMCA. Why is Senator Sanders wrong?
I do. I wasn't here. I haven't been in Congress long enough to have voted against NAFTA, but I led the fight against the trade deal with Asia and the trade deal with Europe because I didn't think it was in the interests of the American people, the American workers, or environmental interests. But we have farmers here in Iowa who are hurting, and they are hurting because of Donald Trump's initiated trade wars. We have workers who are hurting because the agreements that have already been cut really don't have enforcement on workers' rights. This new trade deal is a modest improvement. Senator Sanders himself has said so. It will give some relief to our farmers. It will give some relief to our workers. I believe we accept that relief. We try to help the people who need help, and we get up the next day and fight for a better trade deal. We need a coherent trade policy. We need a policy that actually helps our workers, our farmers. We need them at the table, not just a trade policy written for big international companies. I'm ready to have that fight, but let's help the people
Thank
who
you.
need
Senator
help right
Sanders,
now.
can you please respond to Senator Warren?
Well, I think that it is not so easy to put together new trade legislation. If this is passed, I think it will set us back a number of years. Senator Warren is right in saying we need to bring the stakeholders to the table. That is the family farmers here in Iowa and in Vermont and around the country. That is the environmental community. That is the workers. Bottom line here is I am sick and tired of trade agreements negotiated by the CEOs of large corporations.
Senator Klobuchar, I'd
behind
like
doors.
to bring you in here.
Brianne, I want to hit reality here. I serve on the Agriculture Committee, and I will never forget going to Crawfordsville here in Iowa, and thank you for bringing up Iowa, Brianne, since that is where we are. And I went to this plant, and there was one worker left in that plant. That plant had been shut down because of Donald Trump's trade policies and because of what he had done to those workers with giving secret waivers to oil companies and ruining the renewable fuel standard. That worker brought out a coat rack of uniforms, and he said, "These are my friends. They don't work here anymore." And their names were embroidered on those uniforms: Derek, Mark, Salvador. And that guy started to cry. These are real people hurt by Donald Trump's trade war. So what we should do, and I support the USMCA, I am glad that these improvements were made that are supported by people like Richard Trumka and Sherrod Brown on labor and environment and on pharma, the sweetheart deal,
Thank
because
you.
I think we need a big
Thank you,
trading
Senator
bloc with North
Klobuchar.
America to take on China. And the way you are
Senator
stronger
Klobuchar,
with
your
China
time is
is
up.
with your allies.
Mayor Buttigieg, do you support the USMCA, yes or no?
Yes, it has been improved. It is not perfect. But when you sit down with the people who are most impacted, they share just how much harm has been done to them by things like the trade war and just how much we can benefit American consumers and workers and farmers by making sure we have the right kind of labor and enforceability as Democrats ensured we got in this USMCA. But let's acknowledge why there is such fear and frustration. In my part of the country, in the industrial Midwest, I remember when they came around in the 90s, selling trade deals, telling us, don't worry about your slice of the pie. The pie will get so much bigger that everyone will be better off. And that promise was broken. The part about the pie getting bigger happened. It's just that the part about it getting to most people where I live did not. That is why there is such frustration. The sense that these decisions
you.
in boardrooms and in committee rooms in Washington are being made not based on what's best
Thank you,
for
Mayor
us.
Buttigieg.
That actually
but
makes
based
sense
on
what he
their
just
own
said.
Vice President Biden, Senator Sanders has said Donald Trump will, quote, eat your lunch for voting yes on what he calls terrible trade agreements. When it comes to trade, why are you the best candidate to take on President Trump?
There will be no trade agreement signed in my administration without environmentalists and labor at the table. And there will be no trade agreement until we invest more in American workers. We should be putting our money and our effort and our time in preparing American workers to compete in the 21st century on the high-tech side, dealing with all artificial intelligence. We should be focusing on equipping American workers to do that. And by the way, the idea, I don't know that there's any trade agreement that the senator would ever think made any sense, but the problem is that 95% of the customers are out there. So we better figure out how we begin to write the rules of the road, not China.
Senator Sanders.
Joe and I have a fundamental disagreement here, in case you haven't noticed. And that is NAFTA, PNTR with China, other trade agreements were written for one reason alone, and that is to increase the profits of large multinational corporations. And the end result of those two, just PNTR with China, Joe, and NAFTA, cost us some 4 million jobs as part of the race to the bottom. I am sick and tired and will not tolerate it. And we will use the power of the federal contracting system. If a corporation in America wants to shut down in Iowa or Vermont or any place else, and then they think they're going to get online for a generous federal contract, they've got another thing going.
Right on.
It's a corporate responsibility.
Fuck yeah,
here,
Bernie.
And we need to protect good-paying jobs in America, not see them go to China, Mexico, Vietnam.
Mr.
and
Vice
other
President, what's
countries.
your response?
People are clapping.
Corporate responsibility.
That's
and I
what's
agree with
clap.
that completely. But we also need to have enforcement.
I knew people were gonna
mechanisms
clap.
in the agreements we make, enforceable agreements. That's one of the things that has been improved with the trade agreement with Mexico.
It's the second time people
That's what we
clapped,
should be
and
doing
both times were
in
for
any
Bernie
agreement we
Sanders.
have. But let's get back to the basics here. If we don't set the rules of the road by going out to our partners instead of poking our eye and poking our finger in the eye of all our friends and allies, we make up 25% of the world's economy. We got to bring the other 25%.
He misspeaks a
of our
lot.
allies
He's
along
such
with
an
us
idiot.
To set the rules of the road so China cannot continue to abuse their power by stealing our intellectual
Mumblebus.
property. and doing all the other things
Melting
in
wax
their
figure Joe Biden.
state system to our
God, I
society.
fucking hate him. It looks
Senator
like
Warren.
somebody just poured a vat of acid over him, and he's just melting. He's melting. Like the Wicked Witch of the West, he's
The United States has had a
melting.
strategy for decades, and that strategy has been to have government trade negotiators, a small number, and then surround them with giant multinational corporation lobbyists and corporate executives who whisper in the ears of our negotiators.
No law regarding
and they get
cannabis.
deals cut that are great for the giant multinational.
Lost track of where we are.
corporations.
Cheers, everybody.
Not good for America, not good for American workers, not good for the environment. We need a different approach to trade, and it starts by calling out the corruption of these giant corporations that have cut our trade deals. Everybody wants to get to the American market, and we need to put some standards in place. You want to be able to sell your goods here, then you've got to meet some environmental standards. You've got to meet
Thank you,
labor
Senator
standards.
Warren.
We
I'd
need
like to
a
bring in Mr.
coherent
Steyer
approach.
here. Mr. Steyer, even though farmers and manufacturers here in Iowa and around the country could see some relief from the China deal, they've been crushed by the current administration's trade war. What will you do as president to help them get back on their feet?
Look, on the first day, I would undo Mr. Trump's tariffs. On the first day, I would get rid of his waivers that Senator Klobuchar was referring to oil refiners, so that not having to use corn-based ethanol. In fact, these trade deals have been exactly what Senator Sanders and Warren have been saying, which is that they've been designed to grow the American GDP for the corporations of America, not for the working people of America, and not to protect the climate. So let me say this. I'm the only person that's your number one priority. You can't sign a deal, even if it's marginally better for working people, until climate is also taken into consideration. Look, I've got 4 kids between the ages of 26 and 31. I cannot allow this country to go down the path of everybody in their generation knows it.
You think you're fucking Superman? You think you're gonna fucking save the planet, Superman?
Look,
Are you fucking kidding
We
me?
cannot put climate on the back seat.
These idiots,
all
they
the
think they
time
have
and
control
say,
over it.
We're going to sign this.
We're
one
gonna
more deal,
stop
we're
it.
gonna do one more thing.
We're gonna
without putting
stop
it on
climate
the
change,
That's why it's
man.
number one priority.
We're so
We can't
powerful.
It makes us richer, but we have to do it.
How are you gonna do it, you fucking idiot?
Well, that's right. This issue's personal for me. It's why we're going to tackle climate from day one. It's why we've got to make sure that we have better answers than we do today. Now, what I've noticed is pretty much all of us propose that we move on from fossil fuels by the middle of the century, starting with actions that we take right now. The question is, how are we going to make sure any of this actually gets done? Because people have been saying the right things in these debates for literally decades. The other day in Winterset, there was a kid at one of my events, raised his hand, and he pointed out that he expects to be here in his 90s in the year 2100. He will sit in judgment over what we do, not just what we on this
He's not
stage
gonna be
do.
here
Anyone
2100.
old enough to vote
This
right
is the
now,
problem.
we actually
These
put
fools think
together
that
the
human
national
beings are gonna be here
project it will
2100.
to meet our climate.
Remember 2178, guys. That's the longest anybody would ever be here, and that ain't gonna fucking happen. And this fucking moron's talking about
To
2100.
meet our climate goals, to act aggressively, not just rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, that's table stakes, but to actually move on from the fossil-dependent economy we live in today.
The Paris Accord is
Let's
table
not turn
stakes.
let's not turn to an issue that's come up in the last 48 hours. Senator Sanders. CNN reported yesterday that, and Senator Warren confirmed in a statement
Here we go. Here it goes. Here it is.
that in 2018,
Let's get ready to rumble.
not believe that a woman could win the election. Why did you say that?
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it. And I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on this because this is what Donald Trump and maybe some of the media want. Anybody knows me knows that it's
Liar!
incomprehensible that I
Cunt!
think that a
Why are you
woman
looking
can
down,
be
cunt? Why are you looking
in the
down?
United States. Go to
Because
YouTube
you're a
today.
fucking liar, you
It's a
fucking
video
cunt.
of me
You just got
30
called
years
out,
ago
bitch.
talking about, hey,
Look at you. Huh?
In
You got called out?
2015,
You a stupid cunt? Sorry, you're a fucking liar? Sorry, you're a fucking liar? You getting what you need? You get what you fucking deserve?
And you know what? I stayed back. Senator Warren decided not to run, and I did run afterwards. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote.
Quarter hour.
By 3
Cannabis isn't
million.
no law regarding
How
cannabis.
could
Cheers.
anybody in a million years not believe that a woman could become president of the United States. And let me be very clear.
Let me be clear.
Any of the women on this stage or any of the
Let
men
me be
on
clear.
this stage win the nomination. I hope that's not the case.
Look at her looking down.
But if they do,
Look at her
I will
looking
do
down.
everything in my power to make sure that they are elected in order to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of our country.
Clap!
Senator Sanders.
Yes! Yes! Clap! Yes! Applause!
You never told Senator Warren that a woman could not win the election.
That is correct.
Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election?
What a cunt!
I disagreed. Bernie is my
She
friend,
just called
and
Bernie
I'm
Sanders a
not
liar, that
fight
fucking
for Bernie.
bitch!
But look, this question about whether or not a woman can be president.
What did you think when Bernie said the thing that he just said he didn't say? Wow, what a cunt!
And
What a
this
fucking
way to talk
cunt!
about who
I'd
can win
spit on
is
her.
by
I
looking
would
at
spit on that
human
news
beings.
lady
So,
right
A
now.
woman beat Donald Trump. Look at the men on this
She
stage.
assumes that Bernie's the liar and that this cunt is telling the truth? Wow.
Lost 10
Jesus
elections.
fuck.
The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me. Who has beaten an incumbent Republican any time in the past 30 years is me. And here's what I know. The real danger that we face as Democrats is picking a candidate who can't pull our party together or someone who takes for granted big parts of the Democratic constituency. We need a candidate who will excite. We need a candidate who will excite all parts of the Democratic Party, bring everyone a Democrat to believe in. That's my plan.
Yeah,
and
because
that
bitches are
is what I'm gonna
loudmouth
win.
Senator
bitches.
Klobuchar.
Thank you.
Senator Klobuchar,
Girls
what
can
do
be
you
really
say?
fucking loud.
Senator Klobuchar, what
Yes,
do you say?
I would like to
Senator
point out.
Klobuchar, let me finish my question.
Oh, okay.
What do you say to people?
Show the audience. Let's see how many women are in that audience.
Meeting, so I can't do what I was gonna say.
What do you say to people who say that a woman can't win this election?
I hear that. People have said it. That's why I've addressed it from this stage. I point out that
Hey, Greg
the
Foster,
tallest
fuck your
person
and suck my
Madison
dick,
was the
mother.
loudest person. You have to be competent. Whitmer. Kansas has a woman governor right now, and she beat Chris Kobach. And her name is, I'm very proud to know her, and her name is Governor Kelly. Thank you. Third, I would add to this. You have to be competent to win, and you have to know what you're doing. And when you look at what I have done, I have won every race, every place, every time. I have won in the reddest of districts. I have won in the suburban areas, in the rural areas. I have brought people with me. That is why I have the most endorsements of current Iowa legislators and former Iowa legislators in this race.
Thank you.
Because I know I bring people with me. And finally, every
Thank you,
single
Senator
person
Klobuchar.
that I have beaten, my Republican opponents, have gotten out of politics for good.
Opponents?
And I think,
What's an opponent?
I think that sounds pretty good. I think that sounds pretty good with the guy we have in the White House right now.
Senator Sanders, you can
Well,
respond.
just to set the record straight, I defeated an incumbent Republican running for Congress,
When?
1990. That's how I won, beat a Republican congressman.
Boom!
Of course, I
Boom!
don't think there's any debate up here.
What, wasn't it 30 years ago?
Fact check.
I beat an incumbent Republican congressman.
And I said I was the only one who's beaten an incumbent Republican in 30 years.
Well, 30 years ago is 1990, as a matter of fact. But I don't know that that's the main issue of the day.
Boom!
The issue of the day is, does anybody in their right mind think that a woman cannot be elected president? That's enough. Nobody believes that. If Hillary Clinton got 3 million votes, more votes than Trump. So who believes that a woman can't win? Of course a woman can win. But the real question is, how do we beat Trump? And the only way we beat Trump is by a campaign of energy and excitement, and a campaign that has by far the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And I believe that our campaign has the strongest grassroots movement.
Thank
We
you.
have been endorsed by many
Senator
grassroots
Warren,
organizations.
Senator
That's why
Warren,
we
I
win.
want to give you the final word.
Women candidates have outperformed men candidates in competitive races. And in 2018, we took back the House, we took back state houses because of women candidates and women voters. Look, don't deny that the question is there. Back in the 1960s, people asked, could a Catholic win? Back in 2008, people asked if an African American could win. In both times, the Democratic Party stepped up and said yes, got behind their candidate, and we changed America. That's who we are.
Vice President Biden. Vice President Biden, go ahead.
I agree, women can win, and I've went in and campaigned for 27 of them this last in 2018, the best group I've ever campaigned for in terms of competence. But the real issue is who can bring the whole party together, represents all elements of the party. African Americans, brown, black, women, men, gay, straight. The fact of the matter is that I would argue that in terms of endorsements around the country, endorsements wherever we go, I am the one who has the broadest coalition of anyone running up here in this race.
I know, and then he
All
supported
right,
her.
we're going to take a short
I was
break
so
now.
mad about
CNN
that.
Democratic presidential debate live from
I
Drake
was so
University.
pissed at
We'll be
Bernie
right
when he
back
supported
after
Hillary
this.
Clinton. I was like, if that bitch just cheated you, dude, that bitch just fucking cheated you, and now you're gonna fucking support her? Oh man, I was so disappointed. So he's still the best choice. I mean, look at the other choices. Come on. Come on. What's up, A-Dub? 4:20 Newfoundland time smoke. Yeah. What's up? How about y'all? Where's fucking Steve Running at? He's like, yeah, Nate, can do the Democratic debate tonight, dude? Can do some dabs, do the Democratic tonight? Hostler Johnny. That's okay. We don't got a lot of time left anyway. We got like 10 years left, bro. I can ride it out. Where's Steve Running at? Where the fuck is Steve Running? Steve Running. I wouldn't be doing this shit if it weren't for him. And look, like no one's here watching either. It's just like, wow, man. Nobody wants to watch this fucking debate. I don't blame you guys. I don't blame you. I wish you'd support me, though. I'm trying to make it as fun and as funny and as entertaining as possible. I wish you guys would stay and watch. I don't understand why there's only 13 people watching. You guys aren't really participating. A little bit of tea, perhaps. Oh, man. That is fucking good shit. Hey, dude, 666. I'm glad you're staying, buddy. Cool. Michael Goldsmith. I hope Bernie wins. I hope Bernie wins too, Michael. Soccer Lou says, I'm still here. CNN should be starting up here any second now. Back with the debates. I need to prepare bong, bowl, and for smoke. Ooh. Here we go.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic Presidential Debate live from Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa.
Let's turn to healthcare, the top issue for Iowa Democrats. Donald Trump is trying to repeal Obamacare, including the protections for pre-existing conditions. We all know that each of you vigorously opposes that. Still, there are some questions about what each of you would do. Senator Sanders, you've consistently refused to say exactly how much your Medicare for All plan is going to cost. Don't voters deserve to see the price tag before you send them a bill that could cost tens of trillions of dollars?
Well, what I will tell you is Medicare for All, which will guarantee comprehensive health care to every man, woman, and child, will cost substantially less than the status quo. Medicare for All will end the absurdity of the United States paying, by far, the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs and healthcare in general. While we have 87 million uninsured and uninsured and underinsured, and while 30,000 people die each year. Under Medicare for All, one of the provisions we have to pay for it is a 4% tax on income, exempting the first $29,000. So the average family in America that today makes $60,000 would pay $1,200 a year, compared to that family paying $12,000 a year. We save money, comprehensive health care, because we take on the greed and the profiteering and the administrative nightmare that currently exists in our dysfunctional system.
Vice President Biden, does Senator Sanders owe voters a price tag on his health care plan?
I think we need to be candid with voters. I think we have to tell them what we're going to do and what it's going to cost. And a 4% tax on income over $24,000 doesn't even come close to paying for between 30 and some estimates as high as $40 trillion over 10 years. That's doubling the entire federal budget per year. There's a way to do that. The way to do that is to take Obamacare, reinstate, rebuild it, provide a public option, allow Medicare for those folks who want it, and in fact, make sure that we, in the process, reduce the cost of drug prices, reduce the cost of being able to buy into the subsidized.
No law regarding
further,
cannabis. Cheers,
and make
everybody.
it everybody available to everyone. Here's the deal. That costs a lot of money. That costs $740 billion over 10 years. I lay out how I pay for that.
Senator Sanders?
Well, first of all, what Joe forgets to say is when you leave the current system as it is, what you are talking about are workers paying, on average, 20% of their incomes for healthcare. That is insane. You got 500,000 people going bankrupt because they cannot pay their medical bills. We're spending twice as much per capita on healthcare as do the people of any other country. Look, we've talked about healthcare for all in this country for over 100 years. Now is the time to take on the greed and corruption of the healthcare industry, of the drug companies, and finally provide healthcare to all through a Medicare for all single-payer program. It won't be easy, but that is what we have to do.
You can do it without that. You can do it without Medicare for all. You can get the same place.
Boo him.
Senator Klobuchar, yours.
Boo that
Senator
motherfucker.
Sanders and I
Boo!
have worked together on pharmaceuticals for a long, long time, and we agree on this. But what I don't agree with is that his position on healthcare. This debate isn't real. I was in Vegas the other day, and someone said, "Don't put your chips on a number on the wheel that isn't even on the wheel." That's the problem. Over 2/3 of the Democrats in the U.S. Senate are not on the bill that you and Senator Warren are on. You have numerous governors that are Democratic that don't support this. You have numerous House members that put Nancy Pelosi in as Speaker. The answer is a nonprofit public option. The answer is the real debate we should be having is how do we make it easier for people to get coverage for addiction and mental health? I have a plan for that. And then finally, what should we do about long-term care? The elephant that doesn't even fit in this room. We need to make it easier for people to get long-term care insurance. We need to make it easier for them to pay for their premiums. My own dad, I know when his long-term care insurance ends. And then we have some savings for him. He's in
She's a
assisted
dumb
living.
bitch, this
He
one.
got married 3 times, whole nother story, so there isn't much there. But then we go to Medicaid, and I've already talked to Catholic Elder Care. They're willing to take him in. Our story is better than so many other families. We have to make it easier for long-term care. It's
Thank
not
you.
just
Thank
for
you, Senator
seniors.
Klobuchar.
It's also for the sandwich
Thank
generation,
you, Senator
people
Klobuchar.
trying to help their parents.
Senator Warren.
So we need to start with what's happening in America. People are suffering. I'll just pick one. America, people are suffering. I'll just pick one. 36 million people last year went to the doctor, got a prescription. This is what they needed to get well, and they couldn't afford to have the prescription filled. They looked at it and said, it's either groceries or this prescription. My approach to this is we've got to get as much help to as many people. I've worked out a plan where we can do that without raising taxes on middle-class families by one thin dime. Families by one thin dime. What I can do are the things I can do as president on the prescription drugs. I'll use the power that's already given to the president to reduce the cost of insulin and EpiPens and HIV/AIDS drugs. Let's get some relief to those families, and I will defend the Affordable Care Act. I've got a plan to expand healthcare, but let's keep in mind, when we come to a general election, we Democrats may argue among each other about the best. Democrats may argue among each other about the best way to do health care, but we're going to be up against a Republican health care for millions of people and is still trying to do that. I'll take our side of the argument any day.
Thank
We're
you.
going to
Thank you,
beat him
Senator
on
Warren.
this.
Vice President Biden.
proposal I lay out does in fact limit drug cost. It sets up, it allows all the drug companies it allows you to Medicare to negotiate with drug companies for the price. It sets a system whereby you cannot raise the price of a drug beyond the cost of medical inflation. And by the way, there's mental health parity that I call for in the Obamacare expanded with the Biden option.
Mr. Steyer?
On this stage so many times. Everybody on this stage believes that affordable health care is a right for every single American. Everybody on this stage knows that Americans are paying twice as much for health care as any other advanced country in the world, and it makes no sense, and the government has to step in. I do happen to agree with Vice President Biden that we should move and develop the Affordable Care Act with a public option. But the real question is this. This is not a new problem. Why do we keep having this conversation? We have a broken government. It has been bought by corporations that include the drug companies, the insurance companies, and the private hospitals. That's what I'm talking about. How do we get back government of, by, and for the people? How do we actually break the corporate stranglehold on our government so that we can get any of these things passed?
Thank you, Mr. Steyer. Senator Sanders, your campaign proposals
Hey, Grace, what's
would
up?
double federal spending over the next decade, an unprecedented level of spending not seen since World War II. How would you keep your plans from bankrupting the country?
Our plan wouldn't bankrupt the country. In fact, it would much improve the well-being of working-class families and the middle class. Let us be clear what Medicare for All does. It ends all premiums. It ends all co-payments. It ends the absurdity of deductibles. It ends out-of-pocket expenses. It takes on the pharmaceutical industry, which in some cases charges us 10 times more for same prescription drugs sold abroad as sold here. What we will do through a Medicare for All single-payer program is substantially lower the cost of healthcare for employers and workers, because we end the $100 billion a year that the healthcare industry makes and the $500 billion a year we spend in the administrative nightmare of dealing with thousands of separate insurance plans. Healthcare is a human right. Every other major country on earth is guaranteeing healthcare for all. The time is long overdue for us to do the same.
Senator Klobuchar.
Again, I think it is much better to build on the Affordable Care Act, and if you want to be practical and progressive at the same time and have a plan and not a pipe dream, you have
Greatest
to show
ever,
how
you're a
gonna
fucking
pay for it.
douchebag.
And I would
Fuck
also
off.
note practically that the
People like you are
Affordable
so
Care Act right
stupid.
now is 10 points more popular than the President of the United States. So I think the answer is to build on it. And yes, I think you should show how you're going to pay for things, Bernie. I do. This president is treating people out there like poker chips in one of his bankrupt casinos, the way he is adding to our debt. I am the one person up here who has on her website, in her plan, a plan to actually start taking on the deficit by taking part of that money from that corporate tax cut that they put in there and putting it in a fund to pay back the deficit. And I've shown how I'm going to pay for every single plan. Capital gains tax going to the personal level, getting rid of the oil giveaways, doing something about the hedge fund loophole. You can go through it and you can get the money to pay for things.
Mayor Buttigieg, you're selling your plan as Medicare for all who want it, yet your plan would automatically enroll uninsured Americans into a public option, even if they don't want it, and force them to pay for it. How is that truth in advertising?
Well, it's making sure that there is no such thing as an uninsured American. Look, the individual mandate was an important part of the ACA because the system doesn't work if there are free riders. What I'm offering is a choice. You don't have to be in my plan if there's another plan that you would rather keep. And there's no need to kick Americans off the plans that they want in order to deliver health care for all. And my plan is paid for. Look, our party should no longer hesitate to talk about the issue of the debt and the deficit. Now, we've got a dramatically better track record on it than Republicans do. In my lifetime, it's almost invariably Republican presidents who have added to the deficit. $1 trillion under this president. And it's why everything I put forward, from Medicare for all who want it, to the historic investments we're going to make in infrastructure, to dealing with climate change, is fully paid for. When it comes to healthcare, you can do it in
When it comes to healthcare,
Of course, my plan costs $1.5 trillion over a decade. No small sum, but not the 20, 30, 40 that we're hearing about from the others. All I got to do is two things. Both of them are common sense. Allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices and roll back the Trump corporate tax cuts that went to corporations and the wealthy that didn't even need it.
Senator Warren.
So I started this by talking about 36 million Americans, including Americans with insurance, who just can't even afford to have a prescription filled. We all talk about plans, healthcare plans that we have, and these plans are paid for. The problem is that plans like the mayor's and like the vice presidents is that they are an improvement. They are an improvement.
Circles going right around her mouth.
Right now.
It's funny.
But they're a small improvement. And that's why it is that they cost so much less. Because by themselves, they're not going to be enough to cover prescriptions for 36 million people who can't afford to get them filled. What we need to do is make the commitment that we know where the money comes from. We can ask those at the very top, the top 1%, to pay a little more. Those giant nothing in taxes, we can have them pay. And we can go after the corporate tax cheats. And when we do that, we have enough money to provide health care for all our people. Yes, we build on the Affordable Care Act, but where we end up is we offer health care to all of our people, and we can offer it at no cost or low cost to all of them.
Mayor Buttigieg.
It's just not true.
That's
The
not
plan
true,
I'm
midget
proposing is
socks.
small.
You're
We
blocked
gotta
too.
move
You're a
past the
fucking
Washington
liar.
mentality that suggests
Obama
that
didn't
the
add
bigness
10
of
trillion.
plans only
Oh my God,
consists
that's
of how many
hilarious.
trillions of dollars they put through the treasury.
Oh.
That the boldness of a plan only consists of how many Americans it can alienate. This would be a game changer. This would be the biggest thing we've done to American healthcare in a half century. Let's measure the effects of our plans based on what they would do in our everyday lives. And yes,
Oh, it's 7:10. Happy Slavian Stoners. Didn't even catch that it was 7:10 right now.
And here's why it's
That's
gotta be
funny.
done.
Cheers.
Whoever
Thanks,
in that situation
Slavian.
or
You
knows
saved the day.
someone
Cheers,
who
everybody.
finds that they've
Happy
gotta defer a
7:10.
procedure or delay filling a prescription to try to have it happen in the right month.
Hell yeah.
Because of when your out-of-pocket cap hits, it makes no sense medically because most of us don't experience the economy on an annual basis. Our bills don't come in every year; they come in every month. Same with our paychecks, bi-weekly
Thank
or
you.
monthly. That's why we set this up in a way to solve the problem without running up.
Thank you, Mayor.
Shut up,
$20
Alfred E.
trillion.
Newman.
Senator Warren, your response.
Look, the numbers that the mayor's offering just don't add up. The average family in America last year paid $12,000 in some combination of deductibles and co-pays and uncovered expenses and fees. You can't cover that with the kind of money that the mayor is talking about. The way we have to approach this is we've got to build
All right,
this and we've
I'll
got to
unblock
build
him if that's true.
alliances to make this happen. I can bring down the cost of prescription drugs like insulin and take hundreds of millions of dollars out of the system immediately in costs. We can get help to families, but we have to work together.
Okay, Google.
Experience what health
How
care
much
is
did
like.
Barack
What
Obama
you
increase the
do,
national
you're a
debt?
mental health professional, you're a nurse practitioner with no insurance company standing in the middle. When people try it and use it, then
Senator Warren, you acknowledged that Medicare for All, that you couldn't get there right away. You got on the bill that said on page 8, which is why I didn't get on it, that you would kick 149 million Americans off their current health insurance. Then, a few months ago, you said, no, you're going to wait a while to get there. And I think that was some acknowledgement that maybe what we're talking about is true. And I don't buy that it's not enough. It is a big, big step to say to people making $100,000 a year that your premiums will be cut in half, which is what the nonprofit public option will do. And if you talk, Mayor Buttigieg, about
According to Wikipedia, this was the highest budget deficit relative to GDP, 9.9% since 1945. The national debt increased by $1.9 trillion during FY 2009 versus the $1 trillion increase during 2008. The Obama administration also made 4 significant accounting changes to more accurately report total federal government spending.
Reached out to Iowa Democratic voters for their most pressing questions. Edward from here in Des Moines writes, Des Moines is an insurance town. What happens to all the insurance industry, the health insurance industry here if there is Medicare for all? What happens to all the jobs and the livelihoods of the people that live in insurance towns like Des Moines?
We build in, so Medicare for All program, a transition fund of many, many billions of dollars that will provide for up to 5 years income and health care and job training for those people. But here is the issue. Tom Steyer made the point a moment ago. We are now spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country.
9 trillion.
It's insane. It's
9 trillion. You should have Googled it, dude. Not 10 trillion. So fuck you. You're getting blocked too. You should have Googled it.
The answer is of the drug companies and the insurance companies. And if we want to do
The U.S. debt increased 9 trillion during the 8 years Obama was in office.
and guarantee people health care is a human right, not a privilege. You know? Not a privilege. You know what we have to do? We are finally going to have to stand up to the healthcare industry and end hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and profiteering.
Yeah, let's not round up when we're talking about trillions, you fucking douchebags.
Mr. Steyer.
I just want to emphasize what Senator Sanders said.
Hey, better get it right. You're gonna try to fucking give me a fucking fact like that, and we're talking trillion. You don't round up when you're talking about fucking trillions. You fucking douchebag. All right.
A complicated problem. Between what Senator Warren and Senator Sanders said, it's clear. There are two problems. We're spending way too much because corporations own the system. And we're not negotiating against those corporations. And we've given tax cuts to the richest Americans and the biggest corporations for decades. That's all this is. We have corporations who are having, people are suffering. Senator Warren is right. This is cruelty for money. In order to break this, we're going to have to break the corporate stranglehold and solve both the tax and the negotiating problem.
I wonder how
That's
much
why
Donald
the
Trump's
trouble
raised
is
it.
We need to redo Washington, D.C.
Thank
and
you.
actually
Thank
take
you,
back
Mr.
the
Steyer.
government from the corporations
Thank you,
who bought
Mr.
it.
Steyer. Vice President Biden.
I would argue that the biggest breakthrough in recent time was us being able to do in our administration.
So Donald Trump has increased it 2 trillion so far, I
Us
guess.
being able to do in our administration what five Democratic presidents couldn't get done, and that is pass Obamacare. It was a big deal. Secondly, I would argue that the way you control drug prices is you limit what they can charge for those prices. You don't have to pay the price, limit what they can charge. If in fact they charge more than we set the price for, they can in fact, we can
Damn.
people can import from
Obama
abroad,
spent a lot of
assuming
money.
that it is safe. We in fact, it's only yellow, okay, and we can in fact do all of this and still provide people the option to stay the roughly 150,
But
160
what
million
that- what that guy doesn't wanna
like
tell you
the negotiated plan they have with their
is what this article says is one important difference between Trump's debt figures and Obama's is that Trump has added a massive amount of debt while the U.S. economy has been strong, whereas Obama took over during the depths of the financial crisis. They didn't say that, did they? They didn't want to tell you that. Don't give Obama any credit at all. Just say he spent $9 trillion.
More than they paid a decade ago. Senator Warren, you've called for the creation of a government-run drug manufacturer that would step in if there is a drug shortage or a price spike. Why does it make sense for the government to manufacture drugs, especially when public trust in government is near historic lows?
So what I also said is I'm just going to use the power that is available, and I will do what a president can do all by herself on the very first day, and that is lower the prices of certain prescription drugs. I will lower the price of insulin. We already the president just hasn't picked up and used it. I will lower the price of EpiPens, of HIV/AIDS drugs. That's EpiPens, of HIV, AIDS, drugs.
Yeah,
It's
I
gonna
don't
bring
think
a
Donald
lot of
Trump's
relief
going to
to a
spend
lot
as
of
much as
families
Obama did.
immediately.
Obama
You know,
spent a
now,
lot of
talks
money
about
when he was
90% of
president.
drugs that are not under patent. They're generic drugs, but the
Buttigieg didn't want to fucking mention that, did he?
drug
420.
industry has figured out how to manipulate this industry to keep jerking the prices up and up and up. So my view is, let's give them a little competition. The government lets contracts for all kinds of things. They let contracts to build buildings. They let contracts.
Yeah,
to build
Obama was
military
rebuilding.
weapons. Let's let the contracts out. Put the contracts out. So that
That's
we
basically
can
what that
bring
article is
down
saying,
those
that he
prices.
became
This
president
is a way to make markets
at a really bad
Not to
time. He
try
took
to-
over and he was trying to fix everything that George Bush had destroyed.
It's work. Not to try to move away from the market. You don't have to even use price controls. The whole
All right, no law regarding cannabis. Cheers, everybody.
Get some competition
Cannabism,
out there
chisels for
so
all.
the price of these drugs that are no longer under patent drops where it should.
Senator Klobuchar, do you believe the government should be manufacturing drugs?
I am open to looking at it, but I would try these things first. Number one, I mentioned the Medicare negotiation. Number two, I have a plan, 137 things I found that 100 days without Congress that are legal. And one of those things is that you can start bringing in less expensive drugs from other countries. Bernie and I had an amendment on this. We got 14 Republican votes on it. It was at midnight. They might have not known what they were voting for, but we got that. I now have an actual bill with Senator Kelsey that does that. And I have a bill to get at what Elizabeth was talking about, which is to stop generics from taking money from big pharmaceuticals to keep their products off the market. The issue here is that there are 2 pharma lobbyists for every member of Congress.
Thank you,
They
Senator.
think they own Washington. They don't own me.
Thank
and
you,
as
Senator
president, I will
Klobuchar.
get this done.
We're going to turn now to child care, a huge expense for many new families and a problem that's especially acute in rural Iowa. We have another question from an Iowa Democratic voter. Mayor Buttigieg, this is for you. Tiffany from Clive writes, as a young mom, I had to quit a job I loved because childcare costs were taking up 2/3 of my income. Many families don't have the option of quitting a job because that little bit of income is needed. That leads to families using whatever care they can find, and sometimes the results are deadly, as we've seen in Iowa over the last few years. How will you prioritize accessing quality, affordable childcare in your first 100 days in office?
It makes no sense for childcare to cost 2/3 of somebody's income. We've got to drive it to 7% or below, and 0 for those families who are living in poverty. But this is happening to folks at every level of the income spectrum. Meet professionals who sometimes say that they're working in order to be able to afford childcare in order to be able to be working. It makes no sense, and it must change, and we shouldn't be afraid to put federal subsidizing childcare and making sure that we're building up a workforce of people who are paid at a decent level to offer early childhood education, as well as childcare writ large. We can do that, and until we do, this will be one of the biggest drivers of the gender pay gap. Because when somebody like the voter asking the question has to step
fun
out
watching
of the
everything.
workforce because of that reason, she is at a disadvantage when she comes back in, and that
That's so funny.
can affect her pay for the rest of her career.
Senator Warren, your education plan includes tuition-free public college for all, but you impose an income limit for free childcare. Why do your plans cover everyone for public college, but not childcare and early learning?
No, actually, my plan is universal child care for everyone. It just has some people adding a small payment. But understand this, I remember when I was a young mom, I had 2 little kids, and I had my first real university teaching job. It was hard work. I was excited, but it was childcare that nearly brought me down. We went through one childcare after another, and it just didn't work. If I hadn't been saved by my Aunt B, my generation just got knocked off the track and never got back on. How many of my daughter's generation get knocked off the track and don't get back on? How many mamas and daddies today are getting knocked off the track and never get back on? I have a 2-cent wealth tax so that we can cover child care for all of our children and provide universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in America, and stop exploiting the people who do this valuable work. Largely black, it's valuable work. Largely black and brown women. We can raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher in America. That's an investment in our babies. That's an investment in their mom, in our teachers, and
Senator Sanders, will your universal child care program be free for
Whatever,
everyone, regardless
dude.
of
Do you want me to unblock you? I'll unblock you. I figured you were just a fucking troll bitch. I'll unblock you.
0 through 4 are the most important years of human life. Intellectually, most important years of human life.
What was your name?
Intellectually and emotionally. And yet our current child care system is an embarrassment.
Greatest ever?
These
Was that your
unaffordable
name?
Child care workers are making wages lower than McDonald's workers. We need
What was
to
your name, dude?
fundamentally change priorities in America.
I don't know what your
We
name
should
was.
not be one of the few countries that does not have universal,
Tell me what your name was,
high-quality, affordable
so I
child
can unblock it.
not to guarantee health care to all people is a human right. We should not be spending we should not be spending 10 more than the 10 next countries on the military, hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies for the fossil fuel industry, tax breaks for billionaires, and we
Thank you,
cannot have
Senator.
high-quality,
Vice President
affordable
Biden, I'm coming to
childcare.
you
That
now.
is wrong.
Vice President Biden, infant care is more expensive than in-state public college tuition in more than half the country. Do you support free universal infant care?
It should be free universal infant care, but here's the deal. You know, I was a single parent too. When my wife and daughter were killed, my 2 boys I had to raise, I was a senator, a young senator. I just hadn't been sworn in yet. And I was making $42,000 a year. I commuted every single solitary day to Wilmington, Delaware, over 500 miles a day. Where over 500 miles a day, 250 miles a day, because I could not afford, but for my family, childcare. It was beyond my reach to be able to do it. And that's why there's several things we do. When I triple the amount of money for Title I schools,
money?
every child.
Child. So fucking Max.
3, 4, and 5 years old.
Max
will
Headroom.
in fact have full schooling. They'll go to school, and
He looks like Max Headroom and he sounds like Max Headroom.
after-school programs, which will release some of the burden. Secondly, I think we should have an $8,000 tax credit, which would put 7 million women back to work. They can afford to go to work and still care for their children as an $8,000 tax credit. I also believe that we should, in fact, for people who, in fact, are not able to afford any of infant care, to be able to get that care. But Bernie's right. We have to raise the salaries of the people who are doing the care. And I provide for that as well. My time is up.
Mayor Buttigieg. Mayor Buttigieg, higher education is another huge... higher education is another huge expense for families. You oppose free public college for all because you don't want to make it, quote, free for the kids of millionaires. But lots of public services are available to the kids of rich people, like libraries and public schools. Why do you draw the line at public colleges and universities?
And hope for everyone to get through 12th grade. It's not the same for college. Now, again, I don't want cost ever to be a barrier to somebody seeking to attend college. And under my plan, it won't be. Matter of fact, for the first 80% of Americans by income, it is free.
It is free. God, I just hate the way he talks. He sounds like a
Americans by income,
fucking
it is
used
free
car
at
salesman.
public colleges. But if
Fucking
you're in that
just
top income bracket, don't get me wrong, I still
greasy,
wish you well. I hope you
dude.
succeed when you go to
Lying
college.
fucking
I just
sack of
need you to go
shit.
ahead and pay that that tuition, because we could be using those dollars for something else. There is a very real choice
hate this
about
guy.
what we do with every single taxpayer dollar that we raise. And we need to be using that to support everybody, whether you go to college or not. Making sure that Americans can thrive, investing in infrastructure, and something that hasn't come up very much tonight but deserves a lot of attention, poverty. You know, the Poor People's Campaign is marching on Iowa right now, calling on us to talk by their faith.
Poverty.
I think because even though in politics we're supposed to talk middle class, they know there's no scripture supposed to talk middle class. They know there's no scripture that says, as you've done unto the middle class, so you've done unto me. We got to be where they will make the biggest difference, and I don't think subsidizing the children of millionaires and billionaires to pay absolutely
Bottom of the
zero
hour.
in tuition of public colleges is the best use of those scarce
Senator
taxpayer
Warren.
Senator Warren. Senator Warren.
is the best use of those scarce
Senator
taxpayer
Warren.
dollars.
So look, the way I think we need to do this is we need a wealth tax fortunes above $50 million to pay more. And that means that the lowliest millionaire that I would tax under this wealth tax would be paying about $19 million in the first year in taxes. If he wants to send his kid to public university, then I'm okay with that. Because what we really need to talk about is the bigger economic picture here. We need to be willing to put a wealth tax in place to ask these giant corporations that are not paying to pay. Because that's how we build an economy, and for those who want to talk about it, bring down the national debt. You do universal child care and you got a lot of mamas who can go to work. A lot of mamas who can finish their education. We make that investment in universal college. We've got
Thank
a lot of
you,
people who
Senator.
finish
Senator
their
Klobuchar.
education.
Appreciate your thoughts, Elizabeth, but I want to step back. I actually think that some of our colleagues who want free college for all aren't actually thinking big enough. I think what we have to look at is how we connect.
He's a fucking idiot. You know, I just
I
imagine.
think what we have to look at is how we connect our education system with our economy. Where
He's a gay man pretending to be heterosexual when he's on that stage, and you just know, you know, when he's at home with his man and shit chilling, you know he doesn't talk like
are our
that.
job openings and what do we need? We are gonna
He's
have
such a
over
fucking
1 million
phony.
openings for
He's a
home
goddamn sellout phony piece of shit. I don't fucking buy him for 1 second.
We are gonna
He's a
have
goddamn
over
used car salesman as far as I'm
100,000
concerned.
jobs for
And so
nursing.
is this fucking dumb
Me, as
bitch.
my union friends know, we're gonna have over 70,000
God, I'm so sick of all these idiots. They all need to just stand down.
openings for electricians. We're not going to have a shortage of MBAs. We're going to have a shortage of plumbers. So when we look at that, then we step back. Where should our money go? It should go into K through 12. It should go into free 1- and 2-year degrees, like my dad got, like my sister got.
Thank you,
And
Senator
then we
Klobuchar.
should
Thank you,
agree.
Senator
So the
Klobuchar.
money
Mr.
goes
Steyer.
My
where it
dad,
should
my
go instead of
sister,
to
oh
educate kids while you're
God.
Mr. Steyer, as a billionaire, should your children have been entitled to free public college?
No. And let me say this. I was one of the people who talked about a wealth tax almost a year and a half ago. I believe that the income inequality in this country is unbearable, unjust,
Doesn't
and
matter.
unsupportable.
My sexuality
And
doesn't
the
matter.
Redistribution of wealth
Don't worry about
to
my
the richest
sexuality. It's none of your
Americans
fucking
every
business. If you haven't figured it out by now, just keep watching my
has
show.
to end.
You'll figure it out
I
eventually, I'm
proposed
sure.
almost a year and a half ago to start to address it and to raise some of the money
I
that we
don't
need.
fucking
But I
lean.
wanna
That's
go
for
beyond this and
goddamn
go back to
sure.
this question
You
about education.
lean.
Because we're talking a lot about college. But in fact, if you talk about the Poor People's Campaigns, kids, they are getting an education that's relative to the taxes in their neighborhoods.
This fucking Tom Steyer idiot.
Taxes in their neighborhoods. We need to redistribute money so every kid has a chance, so we're not legislating inequality for the next generation, and so we actually invest in every, specifically black kids, specifically brown kids. We need to start using the money dramatically more for that.
We'll be back with more from CNN's Democratic presidential debate live from Des Moines, Iowa. Stay right here.
Oh my God. Oh. So, I got this fat fucking dog here. He looks like he's been eating a lot of food. I think my neighbors are feeding him. Are they feeding you, buddy? He's just wiped out. This dog is just wiped out. Oh, which way do I lean politically? I'm an independent. I'm an independent. Yeah, Giant, you fucking idiot. What's your I told you I was going to unblock you, but now I'm not going to unblock you. Now you can suck my dick. Now you're blocked on 2 channels. What do you think about that? Keep going, buddy. Let's go for 3. What do you say? Was political lean. What? Thanks for the cast. What? I don't even understand what you guys are saying. Oh, the broadcast. Okay. We're not done. It's not over. It's just on a break. The debates aren't over, guys. But to be honest, I don't know how late they are going. If any of you guys know how late the debates are supposed to go for? Hey man, let's refresh the chat because it's been saying 17 forever. And I don't know. You know, at this point, I think there would be 17 solid people that were, like, down to listen to what's going on with these debates. Or to just chill with me, whatever. Get high. You know, have some fun. Whatever the fuck. God damn it, I hate when I do that. Fucking motherfucker. Keep hitting this thing. When I roll back over, I forget about it. Dude, it didn't fix the chat numbers? Really? It didn't load. It might be because I have CNN up. I asked you, you know, the dude that I blocked for saying 10 trillion, and I didn't believe that Barack Obama ran the deficit up $10 trillion. Or the national debt. Whatever it was. He said unblock me. I said, what's your name? And I even pulled up the thing. I didn't know what name to unblock. I said, what's your name? And he never told me. And then he comes back and he's like, 10 trillion, 10 trillion, 10 trillion. I was like, I know, dude. I know. I looked it up. I Googled it. You were right. I'm trying to unblock you, but now you're being a douchebag about it? I asked you what your fucking name was, you little fucking prick. If I'm wrong about something, I'll admit it. I might not like it, but I'll do it. I'll admit it. As far as I can see, Barack Obama was the most expensive president the United States ever saw. You know, he's spent more money than Donald Trump will even spend, calculated by what Donald Trump does right now. Barack Obama's got him beat. So, all right.
Welcome back to CNN's Democratic presidential debate.
I still don't know my numbers. I'm going to refresh the chat again, guys. Right on volume.
Tomorrow, the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, will send articles of impeachment against President Trump to the United States Senate, launching the third trial of a U.S. president. The Republican-led Senate has signaled that it is likely to acquit him. Vice President Biden, if you're the nominee, is it going to be harder to run against President Trump if he's been acquitted and able to claim vindication, especially after what he said about your family?
It's irrelevant. There's no choice but for Nancy Pelosi in the House to move. He has, in fact, committed impeachable offenses. Whether the Senate makes that judgment on, it's for them to decide. And by the way, I'm told that I say we have to unite the country. It's going to be harder after this trial. It may be, but look, I understand how these guys are, this Republican Party. They've gone after, savaged my surviving son, gone after me, told lies that your networks and others won't even carry on television because they're flat out lies. And I did my job. The question is whether or not he did his job, and he hasn't done his job. And so it doesn't really matter whether or not he's gone after me. I've got to be in a position that I think about the American people. I can't hold a grudge. I have to be able to not only fight, but also heal. And as President of the United States, that's what I will attempt to do, notwithstanding that there's going to be more division after he's defeated by me this next time.
Senator Klobuchar, you're going to be a juror in the trial in the Senate that's about to start. Do you worry President Trump will be emboldened by acquittal?
No, we have a constitutional duty to perform here. And when I look at what the issue is, it's whether or not we're going to be able to have witnesses. We've asked for only 4 people as witnesses. And if our Republican colleagues won't allow those witnesses, they may as well give the president a crown and a scepter. They may as well make him king. And last time I checked, our country was founded on this idea that we didn't want to be ruled by a king. And I think the best way to think about this trial and what we're facing in this election is a story of a man from Primgar, Iowa. His name was Joseph Welch. He came from humble beginnings, the son of immigrants. He became the Army Council, and he was the one that went to the Joseph McCarthy hearings. And when McCarthy was blacklisting people and going after people because of their political beliefs or supposed political beliefs, there was only one man. Everyone that was afraid, they're afraid of being blacklisted. Joseph Welch, he stood up and looked at McCarthy and said, "Have you no sense of deep on our government?" This is a patriotism check. Not only is this trial that, but also this election. And no matter if you agree with everyone here on the stage, I say this to Americans, you know this is a decency check on this president.
Mr. Steyer, you've spent millions and millions of dollars telling the American people that President Trump deserves to be impeached. Will it have been worth it if he's been impeached but not removed from office?
Well, Wolf, actually what I've done is to organize a petition drive of 8.5 million Americans to sign and say this president deserves to be impeached and removed from office. And those 8.5 million people have called their Congress people, have emailed their Congress people, and have actually dragged Washington, D.C. to see that, in fact, this is a question of right and wrong and not of political expediency. So if you ask me whether standing up for what's right in America, standing up for the American people and our safety, standing up for the Constitution, whether doing that and trying to bring the truth in front of the American people in televised hearings so we can decide what the truth is for ourselves. If you think that that isn't worth it, then you don't share the idea that I do about what the America's about. Standing up for what's right is always worth it, Wolf. And I will never back down from that.
Senator Warren, a Senate trial is expected to keep you in Washington in the weeks leading up to the Iowa caucuses here. How big of a problem is that for you as you're making your closing pitch to voters here?
Look, some things are more important than politics. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. It says that no one is above the law. That includes the President of the United States. If we have an impeachment trial, I will be there because it is my responsibility. But understand this. What that impeachment trial is going to show, once again, to the American people, and something we should all be talking about, is the corruption of this administration. That's what lies at the heart of it. It is about Donald Trump putting Donald Trump first, not the American people, not the interests of the United States of America, not even in helping Ukraine defend against Russia. It is about him helping himself. That is what we need to do to win this election. We need to draw that distinction and show that as Democrats, we're not going to be the people who are just out for the big corporations, people who want to help themselves, that we are going to be the party that is willing to fight on the side of the people. That's why we're here.
Let's turn now to the climate crisis. Here in Iowa, parts of the state remain underwater after record-breaking flooding began last spring, racking up an estimated $2 billion in damages. Today, many Iowans are still displaced from their homes. Mayor Buttigieg, you've talked about helping people move from areas at high risk of flooding. But what do you do about farms and factories that simply can't be moved?
That's why we have to fight climate change with such urgency. Climate change has come to America from coast to coast. We're seeing it in Iowa. We've seen it in historic floods in my community. I had to activate our emergency operations center for a once-in-a-millennium flood. Then 2 years later, had to do the same thing. In Australia, there are literally tornadoes made of fire taking place. This is no longer theoretical. This is no longer off in the future. We have got to act, yes, to adapt, to make sure our communities are more resilient, to make sure our economy is ready for the consequences that are going to happen one way or the other. But we also
Cleaned his
have
ears
to
out.
ensure that we don't allow this to get any worse. And if we get it right, farmers will be a huge part of the solution. We need to reach out to the very people who have sometimes been made to feel that accepting climate science would be a defeat for them. Whether we're talking about farmers or industrial workers in my community, and make clear that we need to enlist them
But Mayor
in the
Buttigieg,
national project to do something
to
about it.
clarify, what do you do about farms and factories that cannot be relocated?
We are going to have to use federal funds to make sure that we are supporting those whose lives will inevitably be impacted further by the increased severity and the increased frequency. And by the way, that is happening to farms, that is happening to factories, and that disproportionately happens to Black and brown Americans, which is why equity and environmental justice.
Look at Steyer. He's
have
like,
to be at the
ooh,
core of our
pick me,
climate
pick
Mayor
me.
Buttigieg. Mr. Steyer, what's your response?
Look, what you're talking about is what's called managed retreat. It's basically saying we're going to have to move things because this crisis is out of control and it's unbelievably expensive. And of course, we're going to come to the rescue of Americans who are in trouble. But this is why climate is my #1 priority. And I'm still shocked that I'm the only person on this stage who will say this. I would declare a state of emergency on day 1 on climate. I would do it from the standpoint of environmental justice and make sure we go to the Black and brown communities where you can't breathe the air or drink the water that comes out of the tap safely. But I also know this. We're going to create millions of good paying union jobs across this country. It's going to be the biggest job program in American history. So I know we have to do it. I know we can do it. And I know that we can do it in a way that makes us healthier, that makes us better paid, and is more just. But the truth of the matter is, we're going to have to do it, and we're going to have to make the whole world come along with us, and it's going to have to be priority 1.
Mr. Steyer, to clarify, you say you're the climate change candidate, but you made your $1.6 billion in part by investing in coal, oil, and gas. So are you the right messenger on this topic?
I absolutely am. Look, we invested in every part of the economy, and over 10 years ago, I realized that there was something going on that had to do with fossil fuels that we had to change. So I divested from fossil fuels. I took the Giving Pledge to give. I've been fighting the climate crisis. I've beat oil companies in terms of clean air laws. I've stopped fossil fuel plants in Oxnard, California. I fought the Keystone Pipeline. I have a history of over a decade of leading the climate fight. I am the person here who has the chops and the history that says, I'll make it priority 1 because I've been doing it for a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Steyer. Senator Warren, President Trump is rolling back major environmental rules to allow pipelines and other major infrastructure projects to be built without strict environmental review. Will you restore those protections and in a way that the next president can't overturn?
Change threatens every living thing on this planet, and the urgency of the moment cannot be overstated. I will do everything a president can do all by herself on the first day. I will roll back the environmental changes that Donald Trump is putting in place. I will stop all new drilling and mining on federal lands and offshore drilling. That'll help us get in the right directions. I'll bring in the farmers. Farmers can be part of the climate solution. We should see this, though, for the problem it is. Mr. Steyer talks about it being problem number one. Understand this. We have known about this climate crisis for decades. Back in the 1990s, we were calling it global warming, but we knew what it was. Democrats and Republicans back then were working together because no one wanted a problem. But you know what happened? The industry came in and said, we can make big money if we keep them divided and make no change. Priority number one has to be taking back our government from the corruption. That is the only way we will make progress on climate, on gun safety, on health care, on
Thank you,
all
Senator
of
Warren.
the issues that
Senator
matter to us.
Klobuchar, some of your competitors on this stage have called for an all-out ban on fracking. You haven't. Why not?
Well, first of all, I would note that I have 100% rating from the League of Conservation Voters, and that is because I have stood tall on every issue that we have talked to lead to so many problems. And one thing that hasn't been raised, by the way, is the rules on methane, which is actually one of the most environmentally dangerous hazards that they have recently embarked on. And I would bring those rules back, as well as a number of other ones. When it comes to the issue of fracking, I actually see natural gas as a transition fuel. It's a transition fuel to where we get to carbon neutral. Nearly every one of us has a plan that is very similar, and that is to get to carbon neutral by 2045 to 2050, to get to by 2030 to a 45% reduction. And I want to add one thing that no one's really answered. When we do this, we have to make sure that we make people.
Rogan weighs 36 pounds. 3'6".
If we as a nation do not transform our energy system away from fossil fuel, not right now, not easy stuff, the planet we are leaving our kids will be uninhabitable and unhealthy. We are seeing Australia burning. We saw California burning. The drought here in Iowa is going to make it harder for farmers to produce the food that we need. This is, of course, a national crisis. I've introduced legislation to indicate it's a national crisis. We have got to take on the fossil fuel industry and all of their lies and tell them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. That's what the Green New Deal does. That's what my legislation does. And that is what we have to do.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is, back in 1986, I introduced the first climate change bill, and check PolitiFacts, they said it was a game changer. I've been fighting this for a long time. I headed up the Recovery Act, which put more money into moving away from fossil fuels to solar and wind energy than ever has occurred in the history of America. Look, what we have to do is we have to act right away. And the way we act right away is immediately, if I'm elected president, I'll reinstate all the mileage standards that existed in our administration, which were taking down this 12 billion gallons of gasoline immediately. And with regard to those folks who in fact are going to be victimized by what's already happened, we should be investing in infrastructure that raises roads, makes sure that we're in a position where we have that every new highway built is a green highway, having 550,000 charging stations. We can create, and this is where I agree with Tom, we can create millions of good paying jobs. We're the only country in the world that's ever taken great crisis and turned it into great opportunity. And one of the ways to do it is with farmers here in Iowa, by making them the first group in the world to get to net zero emissions, by paying them for planting and absorbing carbon in their fields right away. There's more to say, but I know
A key part of your
How many people are here watching? You guys, let me hear from you if you're watching. I haven't seen anybody chat at all.
A key part of your mission in this primary is going to be to prove to Democratic voters that you're strong enough to take on Donald Trump. Each of you face unique challenges in doing that. Mayor Buttigieg, you say you've had trouble earning the support of black voters because you're unknown, but you've been campaigning for a black support that you'll need in order to beat Donald Trump. Is it possible that black voters have gotten to know you and have simply decided to choose another candidate?
It's why I have the most support in South Bend. It's why among elected black officials in my community who have gotten into this race, by far most of them are supporting me. And now
is anybody here watching?
Are supporting me. And now, nationally, I'm proud that my campaign is co-chaired by a member of the Congressional Black Caucus and to have support right here in Iowa from some of the most recognizable Black former Representative Barry in Black Hawk County. Now, the biggest mistake we could make is to take Black votes for granted. And I never
Black
will.
Hawk.
The reason I have the support I do is not because
He says
any
Black Hawk. It's Black Hawk. He says Black Hawk.
support I do is not because
Oh, Kathy's
any
here.
voter
Okay.
thinks that I'm perfect.
One person.
Because of the work that we have done facing some of the toughest issues that communities can. Not from the luxury
Anybody
of,
from Facebook
of a
watching?
debate or a television panel or a committee room, but on the ground. Issues from poverty to justice in policing. And I'm proud to say we've been nationally recognized for our work as a race-informed city on delivering greater economic justice. That we have reduced use of force by leading the region in policing. Of course, there is a much longer way to go in my community and around the country. But I will be a president whose personal commitment is to continue doing this work.
Senator Sanders, you call yourself a democratic socialist, but more than 2/3 of voters say they are not enthusiastic about voting for a socialist. Doesn't that put your chances of beating Donald Trump at risk?
It's not a socialist, you fucking idiot.
And that is because the campaign that we are going to run will expose the fraudulency of who Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is corrupt, he is a pathological liar, and he is a fraud. Now, when Trump talks about socialism, what he talks about is giving hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks and subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. Donald Trump is a businessman, received $800 million in tax breaks and subsidies to build luxury housing. My democratic socialism says healthcare is a human right. We're going to raise the minimum
Oh
wage
God, I'm not
to
here to fucking argue with you,
$15
dude.
an hour.
Fuck off.
We're
Go,
gonna make
go,
public
go
colleges
study
and
it.
universities
Go Google the
tuition
shit,
free.
motherfucker.
We're going to have a Green New Deal and create up to $20 million saving the planet for our children and our grandchildren. We are going to take on the greed and corruption of the pharmaceutical industry
what's going on
and
with
the insurance
Facebook?
company. That is what democratic socialism is about, and that will win this election.
Mr. Steyer, you spent
Unable
more
to
than
connect to
$100 million
Facebook.
of your own dollars on television ads. How do you convince voters that you're more than just your money?
Look, we know how Donald Trump is going to run for president. He's going to run on the economy.
Is Facebook
He's
not
already
allowing
told
the
Americans
stream, I
last
guess?
month in Florida, you don't like me and I don't like you, but you're all going to vote for me because the Democrats are going to destroy the economy in 15 minutes if they get in control. So let's be clear. I started a business by myself in one room. I didn't inherit a penny from my parents. I spent 30 years building that business, started organizing coalitions of ordinary Americans to take on unchecked corporate power. But whoever is going to beat Mr. Trump is going to have to beat him on the economy, and I have the experience and the expertise to show that he's a fake there and a fraud. Look, Mayor Pete has 3 years as an analyst at McKinsey. I have 30 years of international business experience. I can beat Trump on the economy. We're going to have to beat him on the economy, and I look forward to taking him down in the fall on the debate stage.
Mayor Buttigieg.
You demoted me. I was actually an associate, but that's okay. It was not the biggest part of my career, but I am ready to take on this president on the economy because I am from the exact kind of industrial Midwestern community that he pretends to speak to and has proven to turn his back on, and guided that community through a historic transformation when at the beginning of the decade,
Yeah, Facebook
I
was
took
weird.
office.
Maybe they're not
It was
allowing
described
this
as a dying
broadcast.
city. I'm ready to take on Donald Trump because when he gets to the tough talk and the chest thumping, he'll have to stand next to an American war veteran and explain how he pretended bone spurs made him ineligible to serve. And if he keeps trying to use religion, if a guy like Donald Trump keeps trying to use religion to somehow recruit Christianity into the GOP, I will be standing there not afraid to talk about a different way to answer the call of faith and insist that God does not belong to a political party. I am ready to take on this president on every front.
Senator Klobuchar, you're pitching yourself at who can get things done. And even tonight, you've dismissed some of the ideas that are offered in this primary as pipe dreams. How are you going to inspire Democratic voters with a message of pragmatism?
Our voters, actually all Americans, have seen now a number of years of a guy that has, I think, told over 15,000 lies. He is someone that literally has a rap sheet of divisive rhetoric. And I think what Americans want is something different. I am going to be able to stand across from him on that debate stage and say to my friends in Iowa, the Midwest is not flyover country for me. I live here. I'm going to be able to look at him and say, you've treated these workers and farmers like poker chips. For me, these are my friends and these are my neighbors. I'm going to be able to look at him and say, you know what? You got $413 million over the course of your career. That's how you built your fortune. And what I'm going to say is this. My grandpa worked 1,500 feet underground in the iron ore mine, saved money in a coffee can in the basement to send my dad to a 2-year community college. That's my family trust.
How
And with
dare
that,
you!
I've been given an opportunity like that. You go into the world not with a sense of entitlement, Donald Trump. But
Charlie,
with
what's
a
up,
sense
son?
of obligation.
Senator Warren, what do you say to voters who like your policies, but they're worried they will scare away swing voters you need to win this race in November?
So I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I have 3 older brothers who are all retired, who are all back there still. And 2 of my 3 brothers are Republicans. And sure, there are a lot of things we disagree on, and we can take to our corners and do the Democratic Republican talking points. But the truth is, there's a whole lot we agree on.
They're gonna cut
my
me
brothers
off
are just
probably.
furious over Chevron and Eli Lilly and Amazon, that our giant corporations make billions of dollars in taxes, make billions of dollars in profits, and pay nothing in taxes. My brother said, I don't get this. I have to pay my taxes. Somebody has to keep the roads paved and the schools open and pay for our defense.
36 pounds. My puppy's 36 pounds. He's just about, what is it, 6 months? 6 months old? I'm doing good, man. Isn't this dog gorgeous? How are you doing? How's the family? Hey, buddy. Let me put you down. Okay, hold on. You gotta get your back straight when you put the dog down. It was 36 freaking pounds now. You know, you gotta fucking. It's all about bowing up on him. What happened here? We paused. Let me refresh the page. We lost it. We lost the connection to CNN there. Hey, Reza. Hey, Daniel. You getting your boys a dog? Page unresponsive. Oh, I wonder what's going on there. Dude, I don't see the, there it is. Wait, maybe there it is. That might be it right there. Hold on. Oh, fuck Andrew Yang. Notice he's not even on the debate stage. He's a fucking nobody. You're fucking counterproductive against Bernie. Angie. If you want to smoke with me, you fucking support Bernie Sanders.
It is about your health care. It is about your schools. It is about your lives and your future. So if you want to do something about racial justice and immigration reform and climate change and gun safety. We need a candidate with her. I have won every race, every place, every time. I have gotten the highest voter turnout in the country when I've led the ticket.
Yang
I
wangers.
have passed more bills as the lead Democrat than anyone who's in Congress that's running for president. I believe that we need a president that's going to look out for you. It is easy to hurl insults. It is easy to draw lines in the sand and sketch out grand ideological sketches that will never see the light of day. What is hard is bringing people together and finding common ground instead of scorched earth. What is hard is the work of governing. So if you are tired of the extremes in our politics and the noise and the nonsense, you have a home with me. Join me at amyklobuchar.com.
Mr. Steyer.
I know that Iowans are going to caucus within 3 weeks. And I want to tell you how I feel about the American people. Look, I played team sports my entire life. The bond between teammates is deep and emotional and full of love. And as far as I'm concerned, the American people are my teammates. And if there's one thing I will not permit, it is someone to run down the field and kick my teammate in the face. And that is exactly what I've seen over the last 7 years, traveling around this country, seeing these Republicans led by Mr. Trump basically kicking the American people in the face. I am prepared to take on Mr. Trump on the debate stage and take him down on the economy. But I am asking for your support because I know that if I'm going to be a good teammate to you and give you absolutely everything without any compromise, I need the support of you on caucus night so I can turn around and together we can take back this country and together we can save the world.
Mayor Buttigieg.
This is our moment. This is our one shot to defeat Donald Trump. And to do it by such a big margin that we send Trumpism into the dustbin of history too. But we cannot take the risk with so much
So
on the
fucking
line of trying to
planned
confront
out, this guy.
this president
So
with
phony.
the same Washington mindset and political warfare that led us.
It's almost
to this
over.
point.
There's summing up.
If you were watching
It's almost
this at
over,
home,
guys,
you
and
were
we're partying.
exhausted by
You
the
guys have done
spectacle
really
of
good.
Division and dysfunction. I'm asking you to join me to help turn the page on our politics. You're seeing the president boast about the Dow. You're seeing the president boast about the Dow Jones, wondering whether any of that will ever get to your of color, feeling taken for granted by politics as usual. Join me. If you're used to voting for the other party, but right now cannot
Finally
look
loaded the
into
number.
the eye and explain this president to them, join me. We have a chance to change all of this if we can summon the courage to break from the past. That is why I am running for president. It is why I'm asking you to caucus for me on February 3rd. And I hope that you will go to PeteForAmerica.com and join me in this effort.
Senator Warren.
So much is broken in this country. I sat here in the break and just made notes about many of the things we didn't get to talk about tonight. How the disability community is struggling for true equality. How gun violence and active shooter drills worry every mother in this country. How children are living in poverty and seeing their life chances shrink. How trans women, particularly trans women of color, are at risk. Black infant mortality.
You're going to want to vote for me? Not any of these other fools?
As our moment in history. Our moment when no one is left on the sidelines. Our moment when we understand that it comes to us to decide the future of this country.
She Native
Our
American.
moment when we build
Joseph Mackey, Joseph Mackey, Joseph Mackey.
That is how I will make you proud every day as your nominee and as the first woman president of the United States of America.
Woman. Whatever. Quit playing that fucking woman card, you fucking cunt.
The major question
God.
is, how does it happen in the richest country in the history of the world, and half of our people will live in
Sound like
paycheck
fucking Hillary, too.
$9-10 an hour. How does that
I'm with
happen?
her,
About
because it's a
1% of the
woman,
bottom
and the
92%
policy doesn't matter.
half a
Shh,
million people
Bernie's
sleep out on the
talking.
streets tonight. How does it happen in this great country? We are the only major nation not to guarantee health care to all. How does it happen that we have a child care system which is dysfunctional? a criminal justice system which is broken and racist, an immigration system that needs reform. This is the moment when we have got to think big, not small. And we have got to think big, not small. This is the moment where we have got to have the courage to take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite and create an economy and create a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Thank you.
Vice President Biden.
Character is on the ballot
No support.
this time around. The American character is on the ballot.
Joseph, please call me
Not
Nay.
Donald Trump
Nice
is
to meet you, bro.
standing out, the hate, the xenophobia, the racism. That's not who we are as a
Hello,
nation.
Kimberly.
Everyone in this country is
You
entitled
made
to be
Keffer
treated
fart.
with respect and dignity.
Let's do a
Every single
bong rip at
solitary person
710.
has to have an
Happy
position
710,
that
everybody.
in fact
Cheers,
can treat them
710.
with decency.
Look,
It's about fundamental
710.
decency.
What?
We in the United
Cheers.
States of America can put up with. We can
No law
overcome
regarding
4
cannabis.
years of
Cannabis is
Donald
been
Trump.
for all.
But 8 years of Donald Trump will be an absolute disaster and fundamentally change this nation. We have to restore America's soul, as I've said from the moment I announced. It is in jeopardy under this President of the United States. We lead the world when we lead by example, not by our power. We, in fact, have to regain the respect of the world in order to be able to change things. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a position right now, we have to remember who we are. This is the United States of America. There's not a single thing beyond our capacity to do if we do it together. Let's go do it.
Candidates, thank you very, very much. That concludes the first Democratic presidential debate of 2020. The Iowa caucus.
Shut up, Wolf
only 20
Blitzer.
days away.
Nobody
Tuesday
wants to
night.
hear a goddamn thing you have to fucking say. Shut up. Thank you. That's so much better. That's better. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Trendy Show. There it is.
Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
Danny DiPolito, what's up? Trendy Mafia, old school, what? Woo! That was fun. What's up, Phil? Jake? Michael, Kathy. John says, what about the other side? Keep up your good work, says John. I have about 3 seconds to finish like a dog or 2. You have to capture it in 3 seconds. One trendy at a time, Kepper. One trendy at a time. That's how we do it. So I haven't seen the freaking waterfall in quite some time. The dog is totally crashed out right in front of me. He just fucking boom, fucking crashed out. So he was having problems with his ears. I don't know how the fuck he got so much dirt in his ears. But they must have been, oh, it's the fire. They must have a fire going over there. And he got, stuff in his ears. It was bothering both ears. And while the live show was going, I took some Q-tips and I cleaned out his ears. Oh, he was so comfortable and he relaxed right after that. You could tell. It was really bothering him. He's got these huge ears, And, they're fucking radar dishes. Same with this. So good as they catch sound, they catch dust as well. So, the debate was interesting as far as who won the debate. Who got to speak the most. If you really give a fuck who won and all that shit, I personally don't. And I would rather withhold my commentary on all of it because I only support one person out of that whole group, and it's Bernie Sanders. Everybody else is copying him and stealing from his possible audience. So, I don't support any of the other ones. And that's it. That's all I have as far as commentary on the debate. I hope that was enough commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed the hilarious commentary at the beginning of the debate. And people were just like, blah, blah, blah. I fucking hate that shit. Blah, blah, blah. I still have to go downstairs with that fucking hot sponge mop and clean that floor. That has to be done. Yeah, I know you don't like his gun policy, Kepper. Neither do I, but I think he's got much bigger fish to fry besides trying to pull everybody's guns away from them. I won't support that. That's for sure. You think Bernie won the debate? I think the most important thing was what happened between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, where she accused him of saying something that he would have never said, and he was able to call her a liar right to her face, and to see her reaction, that she couldn't face him, that she looked down the whole time like a child who'd been scolded and knew they were fucking wrong, knew that what they did was wrong. And there she was for the whole world to see, that guilty fucking reaction from her, with him fucking staring right at all of America, saying, I would have never said that. This is why I would have never said that. She's a fucking liar, and you can see how she won't even look at me right now. That you can judge for yourselves, America. Here it is. And here you have CNN with the hit pieces and that stupid fucking cunt bitch that was asking the questions, framing it like, so, As soon as Bernie said, no, I didn't say that to her, she looks at Elizabeth Warren and says, so, when Bernie said that to you, you know, you hear the gasp from the crowd like, hello, you stupid fucking bitch. You know? You're not going to take his fucking word for it? He said he didn't say it. Why are you framing the question like he's a liar, you fucking cunt? Yeah, Fred, why don't you switch it to Bernie Sanders, bro? Why don't you actually do something and help? Yeah, no confident doesn't help. I don't understand. It doesn't help. Your vote counts. What? Vote Bernie Sanders, bro. Steve, there you are, you fucker. Dude, it came down to fucking Bernie calling Warren a fucking liar to her face and her being basically called out for it and totally looking guilty. The pundits will say that Elizabeth Warren won because the pundits want Elizabeth Warren to win. But we all know that Bernie Sanders destroyed Elizabeth Warren on that one point for sure. Yeah, well, she's a fucking dumb cunt, Greg. It was worth watching just for that one thing, because I knew it was going to happen. And I had a feeling that was exactly how it was going to go down. That Bernie was going to say, hey, I didn't say that shit. And she was going to look down and fiddle with her papers and fucking try to avoid eye contact the whole time Bernie was talking and look like somebody who's guilty and is being fucking accused of what they're guilty of. It's exactly what she looked. She was the textbook definition of what a guilty person looks like. Yeah, I would like to take a short video of that, of Elizabeth Warren at that moment, looking down and looking all nervous and shit, and put that, just a few seconds of that video on Twitter in a meme that says, textbook definition of guilt. This is what it looks like. This is what textbook guilt looks like. Man, I hope that's not arthritis coming on. Please don't be an arthritis attack. Please don't be an arthritis attack. Please don't be an arthritis attack. Going to be funny tomorrow if Hillary Clinton announces that she's running for president again. I'm with her again! We beat them by 3 million last time. Let's beat them by 4 million this time! Yay! Hey, Great Dick, what's up? It's going good, man. Chilling. Had a problem with Facebook. Didn't realize it till late in the show, man. And then I went and I checked my settings and reconnected Facebook. Facebook was acting really weird. I don't know if it dropped them or what. I'll be able to, actually I could check my stats now. It'll probably tell me right now. Here, let me see. If Facebook ever actually connected. Yeah, and then the Facebooks turn on right there. I'd have to zoom this in. Yeah, those Facebooks. All the Facebooks were off. And now it looks like a couple of the Facebooks are still off. Yeah, I'm hoping there's something I can take for goddamn. Hope there's something I can take for arthritis. Like a pill or something. They got a pill for arthritis? Alright, let's see. Facebook, online, sending data. Okay, 2 of them. Down, online. Okay. 2 of them are down. Let's turn them off. And a YouTube stream now is down. Several YouTubes are down. Okay, offline. Let's fire those 2 back up. No, it says sending data. 2 Facebook channels are not connecting, and I don't know which 2 they are. It doesn't really matter. But it's definitely affecting my ability to bring more people to the show. Right now it says 39. That can't be right. We don't have 39 people watching. So let's see, there's 9. $19, $21, $25, $20. There's 27 people watching right now. Not 39. But, yeah, you know, I'm just putting all my support behind Bernie Sanders. I became a monthly donor to Bernie Sanders, $7.10 every month. I'm going to donate to Bernie Sanders. So that way it's good because it's an extra donation, and each small donation is more important than the money he's getting. He's got plenty of money. It's all about those little and often frequent donations. That's what really helps his campaign. So oh, look at this fucking piece of shit. Blocked. Fuck off. Good time to end the live stream. All right, you guys. No law regarding cannabis. Stay trending, my friends. And remember, follow me on Twitter. Okay? Find me and follow me on Twitter. Trendy as Dabbers on Twitter. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your evenings. Take care, guys. Hope y'all had fun. Bye-bye, y'all.